Hi, there have been some questions about arrays, and so I went ahead and did some, well, brief diagrams, and I'm putting together a web page that will better explain how to use arrays, both one-dimensional parallel arrays and two-dimensional arrays. And so I'll go ahead and close this window with me in it. And then on this just shows you an array and how it's set up. And the array has a particular address that points to the array. And then it has multiple elements in it. For example, if you have a string array, this example would have 4 elements or members in it. And then the address of the first member is always calculated by, or it's always the same as the address of the array. So therefore, you have to add 0 to the address of the entire array to get the address of the first member. Again, little explanation down here. And I'm going to post these slides also into a article I'm writing. Then a parallel array has 2 arrays with the same number of elements in them. And then like the first element of each or first member of each are related, second element or member are related, third element or member are related, etc. And so they have to be the same size. And whatever you index to get to 1, like in the case of the car example, then you need to index into getting the type of car like SUV, sedan, coupe, sports car. And then the array 2 would then have then just the first, like the first one, let's say if this was sedan, then might be a Toyota Corolla is my member. Then you might have a array 3, an array 4, an array 5, etc. to get all the cars you want. This is the way that was described in the textbook. And then a two-dimensional array, if you consider the first dimensional row array is an array of an arrays. And each element then just has the address of an additional array. And in this case, then that's used for the car, that'd be an array of strings. So this would be an array of arrays of strings. Hope that makes sense. If there have any questions, please contact me. And so that is the basics parts of a one-dimensional and a parallel array and a two-dimensional array. Again, you can also have three-dimensional arrays where each of these would be then just pointers to like the strings, but we're not going to get that complicated in this class. So two-dimensional arrays are nice. Then if we go to the array here, then this has been, unfortunately, I updated to the more modern version of IntelliJ IDEA. And I don't like it as well as the older version, but it's fine. This just shows you how I write code, which includes then the purpose of the program or the name of the program, then my name, then when I wrote it and the purpose. And then I usually have purpose and this reads this. And then I really like comments in the array. And the first one on the comment in the main section is for parallel arrays. Then these have one-dimensional arrays, which just means you can have 0 through whatever the size -1 of the programs. In this case, then I am going to say there are 5 types of vehicles, and then I am giving 6 different actual examples of that type of vehicle, for example, sedan, coupe, sports car, SUV, pickup. And then there'd be examples of each one in that. And then see, the next one is for a two-dimensional array, and I have the number of rows and the number of items in each row. And notice then there are two indexes. In a single dimension array, there's only one index. For a two-dimensional array, there are two indexes. In this case, I have rows and columns. And if you notice then, the rows are how many types of vehicles I have. And then the columns are the initial type of vehicle and each of the additional vehicles that I may have or use. So then in this case, then I read in the code from the file and I go through the number of rows, which in this case are 5. There's 5 rows, 5 different types of vehicles, and the vehicles, individual vehicles associated with each type. Then I just do a split on a comma because it's a comma separated file. And then for the Java class, FRCC's Java class, I have examples of the files. So you can just look at the examples and have an idea of what the input files look like. I might also include that here, just a brief description. And then I go through and then after splitting it in groups for each row, then I have to go through and fill the two-dimensional array, which is what I'm doing here. And if you notice then on the first row, which is row 0, then I'm going through then the items which are 0 through 6, 1 less than 7. And then for the two-dimensional array, I already have I set to 0 for the first row, and then J for the parts, and it fills in all the parts for that particular row. Likewise, then I'm still working on just one row at a time. I've read in all the information of one row, which is the type of the vehicle and the 6 examples. This case, then, if you notice, then entry is a little bit different. See, I'm trying to think if rows would work on that. No. This goes through, and then the first entry it might, but I'm not going to worry about it. I have a separate entry set up going from 0, and then enter the first array is the vehicle type, and I enter parts 0, which is in the file is the type of the vehicle, and then vehicles 1 through 6, I enter the appropriate part that was as derived from the row. And then I go ahead and just print them out and notice the different ways that I have to use in order to print them out. Then I can use a double loop for the two-dimensional array, but I have to use a single loop and then print out each of the vehicle types and each of the vehicles. So why not go ahead and build it and then run it. And then notice it comes out very much the same. So you can either use either parallel arrays or two-dimensional arrays, and they'll come out about the same. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, if I go to CFRC, and then here's the lists I have, and the one I'm using here is vehicles. If you know, it's a comma separated list, so it doesn't care about white space. If you do a read normally, if you just read individual characters, like if you use the scanner and say just next, then it will just read in one word at a time. And it looks for white space to separate those words. Whereas in this case, I'm reading read line. And then let me go back to there. And then I'm doing a read line. I'll read next line. And then I just split it up using the string parts row.split and splitting on the comma, which is a nice little command. And then I have the individual parts, and I don't care if they have spaces in the name or not, but everything's separated by commas. So I hope that's been helpful. And we'll go ahead and say call it quits for now. Take care.